Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about the limits of power. You know, the limits of effective power, and how the U.S. empire has put itself in a position now where it's forcing its adversaries to challenge those limits. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about, but we're just going to talk. And that's about, you know me, if you listen to my streams, you know, I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about when I get started. And it's the stream of consciousness. It's just what I'm thinking about these things, right? It just kind of comes to me. I'm looking at what's happening, and I'm looking at a couple of big issues right now. We got huge issues right now going on three fronts, you know, Russia, China, Iran, right? And I see people do separate videos about them. I see people talk about them independently, but it's getting to the point now, clearly to me, that this is one front, that this is one issue, and there is a single issue. Russia, China, or Iran, there's only one issue going on here, and that issue is regarding the limits of effective power. And here's a reality, that at what point is power converted to force, and what the correlation between power and force. Here's what I mean. Yeah, and you probably heard, this is an old one. Power is only power until you use it, then it becomes force, right? I can say I have power. What is that? Well, people all around listen to me. They do what I tell them to do. When I say jump, they jump. When I say sit, they sit, right? Okay, fine. And that happens because people recognize your power. They recognize your power as authority, right? Terms like power, authority, and force, right? Power gives you the authority. I have the power, and therefore I have the authority to tell everybody what to do. And what is that power? The power is not in my mind. It doesn't have a lot to do with me. The power is in other people's belief that I have the ability to influence their lives in some way or another, right? And the more they believe influence they have, the greater power they perceive. Power is perceived, right? I may have no power. What if I can convince everybody that I am, I don't know, you know, an alien that has, and I'm walking around with this little box, and that box has a red button, and I convince everybody on earth that if I push that red button, the whole earth explodes, right? I have power, and everybody in the world does everything that I tell them to do because they're afraid that I'll push that. And do I have power? Tremendous power. In reality, all I got is a cardboard box, right? I have no real effective power. But the power that I have are in the minds of everybody in the world. Everybody walks around, what are you going to do? You better not mess with Garland. Why? Because he'll push that button. And I go to him and I say, you know what? I want the biggest yacht in the world. Russia, China, all these other US, build me this giant yacht. And they do. What else do you want, Garland? I want a harem of the most beautiful women from every country, 5. I need a harem. Otherwise, I'm going to blow off the wood. Then next I get a harem. Anything else? Gold. It's gold I want. I want X amount of gold. They give it to me. And I keep telling them I want more and more. What do you want? I want a chef with the finest food. I want a goat every day to be, adorned in the finest herbs and olive oil, and to be cooked over over an open spit and served to me along with grapes. Okay, sure, man. Here's your goat, there's your grapes. And I go on and on and on. And as long as they believe that I have the power, I have the power because they believe it. That's all it is. It's their perception that I have the ability to affect their lives. What happens if they start to suspect that it's just a cardboard box with a red button painted on the top? At that point, they start to question my power. Well, I don't know, Garland. And I go, oh, do you want me to push this button? No. Here's your boat. Here's your harem. Here's your gold. Here's your, on and on and on. All the things. Anything else you want? Yeah, sure, whatever. I like dirt bikes. How about a new Honda dirt bike? Whatever. It don't matter. I ask them for. But they start slowly thin, And then I get really mean to them. And you know what I want? And then I want somebody to slap, and all the presidents of the world walk, and I just walk around and slap each one of them in the face. And then I say, I want your firstborn male child, and I shoot him between the eyes, and I get more and more ruthless. The more ruthless I get, the more tempted they are going to be to test the power. And at some point, I'll push them and push them and push them until they'll say, damn it, Garland, push the button. If you're going to blow up along with us. So if you blow it, you blow the earth, you're on the earth. You know what? We've had enough of your ass. If you're going to push the button, push the button. If you ain't going to push the button, shut up and get out of here. They can't take it anymore. I've been so evil and brutal and ruthless that I put them in a position where, to be quite frank, they'd rather get blown up than put up with another hour of my crap and constant demands for more. At some point, they're like, do you really think Garland has the power to blow us up? I don't know, but I think it's time that we find out. Because I'd rather drink a banana smoothie. I'd rather die and listen to this guy's friggin' mouth for 5 more minutes. You push it too far. You've pushed it too far. And at some point, they want to know your effective power, not your perceived power, not their perception that you can blow them up, but can you really blow them up? And little do you know, it's been getting closer and closer. When you ask them for the harem, oh God, I don't want to give them, here's a harem. I asked them for the giant ship converted into a yacht, 900 feet long. Oh, that's going to cost us, it's going to be a pen. Okay, go ahead. And bit by bit, it got to the point, wait a minute, our firstborn male child, you're going to shoot him? Yep, boom. And they were slowly getting to the point. Slowly getting to the point where at some point they were going to have to challenge the power. So here's my point. Look at the U.S. and how reckless it's been with its power over the past, I don't know how long, but particularly since 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed, right? Look how reckless the U.S. has been, how ruthless it's been with its power, slaughtering people, genocide after genocide, telling Libya, we want you to go along with our whims. We want you to disarm. All right, I'll disarm. Great. Now that you're disarmed, we're going to kill you anyway. Right? Pure ruthlessness. Total and reckless disregard for its reputation. And the fact of the matter is this: I think the U.S. did stuff like that just to prove to people that they how tough they were, just to keep people scared. And it has been said that some of the neocons said about Iraq and other things, every now and then you got to take a country and slam it against the wall so other countries don't know you'll still do it, right? Every now and then we just take somebody out and beat them just to remind everybody that we still can and keep everybody in order. And great, you can get along with that as long as you are in fact the preeminent power and everybody's convinced you are the preeminent power to some extent. What happened was you challenge Russia, you put Russia in a position A, where Russia's position was like, look, we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to kill us. And here's the choice we got. You're going to surround us. You're going to get everything in place, and then you're going to destroy us. Or we can fight you before you get everything in place. You know what I mean? Think about that. I'm going to get 100,000 troops there. And when I get 100,000 troops there, I'm going to kill you. And I see you start and you got 20,000 troops. I'd rather fight you with 20,000 than 100,000, right? So I might as well fight you now. Why wait around if I know we got to fight? And Putin being a martial artist, he understands that philosophy better than anyone. If I know I'm going to have to fight you, the sooner the better. And I need to punch first, right? So my point being, the U.S. put Russia firstly in that position. These are different kinds of positions. The fact that the U.S. empire put Russia in the position of having to challenge its effective power in Ukraine created a different dynamic that affected the other two. So here's what I mean. Russia was put in a position where I think to an extent they didn't have a lot of choice. The United States wrote books, articles, all kinds of things that said we're going to take Russia out. We're going to take them out, and that we're going to use Ukraine. Literally, they literally wrote documents that says we're going to take Russia out, and this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to use Ukraine to take Russia out. Then they overthrew the government of Ukraine, and they continue to write documents that said we're going to take Russia out, and we're going to use Ukraine to do it. So Russia at that point said, okay, you know what? They're going to kill us and eat us. So we might as well fight now. And where things are basically, how can I put this? Russia made a decision to fight where things were beneficial to them. Their economy was strong. They had created a dynamic economically where they felt they could withstand some sanctions. They didn't know how many or how long, but they knew they were going to have to withstand some. They knew that they could take a punch. Their military was much stronger. They had some new military hardware, and they had the resolve. So they said, you know what? And let me add one other thing that I think is critical that you got to think about Russia. The people in Russia were screaming to the Russian government, you got to go into Ukraine. See, that's what Americans don't know, that the Russian people were screaming to the Russian leadership overwhelmingly, what's taking you so long? You got to go to Ukraine and fight. That's what Americans don't know. And so the Russian government kind of waited until they get what you call in business market insistence. The people, you got a product and people are beating down the door to get your product, right? They waited until rather than have to get the Russian people behind them to go into Ukraine, the Russian people were in front of them saying, come on, you got to go into Ukraine. So the Russian government went into Ukraine to say, we got no choice. We got to fight. We're going to have to fight the US and NATO sooner or later. We might as well do it on our terms. Boom, they go in. Now that changed the dynamic for a couple of reasons. And I think one of the things that happened was very, very important. And that was this. The United States, along with France and Germany and England, the usual suspects, had made a deal with Russia called the Minsk Accords around Ukraine. They made a deal with Russia, and they did nothing to keep their end of the bargain. In fact, they did the opposite. They went against their end of the bargain. They said, we're going to do this and that, and that. They did none of it. And once the war started, Angela Merkel, Petro Poroshenko, who was the former leader of former president of Ukraine, and a former, I forgot which one of it, one of the former French leaders, they all came out and admitted the truth. We never intended to keep the Minsk Accord. It was all a ruse just so we could arm Ukraine to go after Russia. That basically we lied. We made a deal with Russia and we lied. It was just a lie so that we could get ready to arm Ukraine to go up against Russia, right? So they displayed their ruthlessness in deal making. Basically, we'll make a deal with you. As I've said many times, the old saying about diplomacy, we'll say nice doggy long enough until we can get a rock and hit the dog in the head, right? Nice doggy long enough to get a rock. That's what they did. Nice Russia, you're nice. We're going to make a deal with you until we get Ukraine all ready, and then we're going to pound you over the head with Ukraine and destroy you. So Russia challenged their kinetic power. Right. They also challenged their economic power because the U.S. empire says we're going to sanction the daylights out of you and that'll wipe you out. And Russia stood up to it and continues to stand up to it. And now everyone who really understands the conflict has come to the obvious conclusion Russia's going to win this. And many of us from the very beginning said, I don't know if you've been paying attention to military history, but there ain't no way in hell Ukraine's going to beat Russia. Ask, Hitler and Napoleon, etc. But others may not have been so understanding or knowledgeable of military history and said, I think plucky little Ukraine's going to pull it out. Meanwhile, the West said we're throwing everything we have in Ukraine to help them, which again, this had a very, very powerful influence on the changing world dynamic regarding the U.S. empire. So U.S. throws everything they can, but they get everybody else they can too. Every NATO country. NATO makes it clear we're at war with Russia. They throw everything they can, every dime, every dollar, every bit of diplomacy, every bit. They now have their effective power, imperial power challenged economically, challenged diplomatically, because they're going around telling all of their so-called allies and vassals, you better do this, and country after country saying, no, I won't. China nuke, India nuke, on and on nuke, Turkey nuke, Turkey, a NATO member, we ain't going along with that crap. Sorry, we got to look, we're trying to eat, man. This ain't going to work. So what is on display is a couple of things, and that is the ruthlessness of the empire to make a deal with Russia and then just say, ha, we only made that deal so we could keep your mouth shut and keep you busy long enough so we could get a knife to your throat. And the world looks at that and they're like, oh my God, you make a deal with these people, this is bad news. And then Russia challenges them. And what the world saw or sees is, man, we thought this empire was tougher than we thought was tougher than this. And they're giving it everything they got to take Russia out. And they can't do it. And they're going to lose. The other thing that happened too, and this is important, And it's becoming more pronounced than ever. And these things are inextricably linked. As it became more and more clear that the US empire was actually going to lose this conflict and was losing this conflict, the internal fighting began to exacerbate, right? The people are like, we want out. We don't like this crap. This is kind of scary. It's bad, and it's costing us money, and it's causing inflation. There's a lot of problems. So a huge percentage of Americans said, we don't like this. This war is not popular. The popularity went down dramatically. So much so that Trump runs and says, I'm going to try to end the war. And I think that was a big part of people voting for him, saying, hey, he said he's going to try to end the war. Not, that I trust him or trusted him or even voted for him. I wouldn't vote for either candidate. But my point is that doesn't matter. He won. And I believe a big part of Trump winning is running as the peace candidate, even though a lot of that was a fraud. I do think Donald Trump really does want to end the Ukrainian conflict, not necessarily for the best of reasons. He still has horrible and nefarious plans. I'm just saying, I think he does want to end that conflict. Not that he's not an imperialist or he doesn't have other plans. He wants to destroy still Russia, destroy China, everything else, but he's trying to work in a way that he feels is more advantageous to preserve the US empire. His plans are the same as those who wanted to take out Russia, to preserve and strengthen the US empire. He just sees the folly of their actions in going after Russia right now. He's realistic because he's not emotionally attached to that conflict, and he wants out because he wants the US out. I think he wants the Europeans to stay in, but he wants himself out. He wants to kind of end it for whatever reason, but he's got other things to do. So that's irrelevant. Why is it irrelevant? The fact is he does want to end it, and the fact is that's why a lot of people voted for him. Now, if they understood the other things that he wanted to do, they may not have been so thrilled, but that's a reality. And so where we are now is we're in a place where Russia challenged the effective economic, diplomatic, and military power of the US empire. And they had no choice because the US empire used everything. It used it. And see, that's the thing about it. The US empire said, we're going to do a full spectrum attack on Russia. We're going to go after them diplomatically, economically. We're going to go after every way we can. The problem is that if you go after them through every manner you have and you lose, that means you've lost on all of those various in those each of those areas. You've lost diplomatically, you've lost economically, you've lost, and you're losing, and everybody knows you're losing, and everybody knows that you lied. You've admitted that the Minsk Accords were a lie. You've admitted that they were worse than a lie, that they were a deception. The Minsk Accords were not a lie. Well, how did the Minsk Accords happen? The battle of, I think it was Poltava or Sepultava, the Battle of Poltava in 2014, 15. I forgot exactly when and what happened. The rebels, you might call them, the Eastern Ukrainians, the Russians, surrounded the Western Ukrainian troops in a town called, I think it was Poltava or Sepultava, whatever it was, and we're going to wipe them out. And Angela Merkel gets on a plane and flies to Russia and says, hey, let's make a deal. Don't wipe out the Ukrainian military. And Vladimir Putin says, all right, we'll make a deal. And the deal was called the Minsk Accords. It was a deal to save what was left of the Ukrainian military. And in hindsight, you think the next time they're going to ask, if they ask the Russians to make a deal and not obliterate the Ukrainian military, you think they're going to make that deal next time? No, they've had it once. They've had a slice of that pie one time before. But my point being, they made a deal, and now look what happened. They end up in this big war, and the U.S. ends up laughing in their face, saying, we lied, ha, 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 so we could get you. Fair enough, but everybody's watching you. The Chinese and the Iranians, the North Koreans. In fact, at some point during this conflict, early in the conflict, the North Koreans kind of made, I'll call it an announcement. And basically what they said was, there's no point. There is no point in us ever negotiating with the U.S. No point in it, not going to happen, because basically, in a nutshell, we see them for what they are. And if we made a deal with them, they wouldn't keep it. So the North Koreans basically say, we ain't negotiating with these people. We have no reason to negotiate with them. We don't trust them. They're a bunch of liars. And so forget it. Not happening. What does that actually mean? That means, remember, Trump said he wanted to deal with North Korea, and the North Koreans slammed the door. Nah, sorry, we ain't even talking to you, maggots. What does that mean? It means whatever you're going to do, Trump, you got to do it. No, we ain't talking to you, then we don't want to deal. What you going to do? It's challenging the effective power. The North Koreans made it clear a few years ago. So the U.S. said, I think it was under Biden or Trump, one of the two. And they said, yes, we're practicing for a nuclear decapitation strike where we will take out the entire leadership of North Korea. And the North Koreans said, well, we've got a plan for that. And if that happens, we're going to start firing every missiles we have. We'll be able to hit Hawaii. We'll be able to hit some your bases in Guam and different places, and we'll be able to hit some cities in the United States with nuclear weapons. So if you launch a preemptive nuclear strike against the DPRK and you take out our leaders, which you can do because you got nuclear weapons, and nuclear weapons, if you fire a salvo in, some leakers are bound to get in, and they're going to hit us, and then we'll be done. We won't be by ourselves. It's going to be costly. It's going to be it for Seoul. It's going to be it for a lot of your stuff in the region's done, and Hawaii wouldn't want to be there, and of course probably LA and Frisco and those places. They're done. They're finished. They made the price really, really high. And again, so what do? When the U.S. says, well, you got to talk to us, and they say no, they're challenging the U.S.'s authority to tell them that. They're saying you no longer have the authority. Because the authority is in our minds. It's our recognition that you can force us to do something. We don't recognize that you can force us. And what we're saying is this: the price is too high. We believe that we've made the price so high that you won't do it. In fact, we know we've made the price so high that you won't do it. And you know it too. So what you going to do? You're going to try something. That's not non-nuclear, conventional attack. Well, we are ready for that. So do what you're going to do. Now, eventually, North Korea and Russia come together and say, well, you fight one, you fight both. Well, it changes a lot. I think they got 1 million soldiers or something in North Korea. It's not a small army. Very, very well trained, very, very well armed. And now, because of their alliance with Russia, that's improved. That's actually expanding even more. Now, what about Iran? Same thing. Let's look at Iran. Iran has let's go one further. The same as the Minsk Accord. The Iran made a deal with the U.S. JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of whatever it was, a plan of action, right? And it was with I think France, Germany. It was the P5+1. Russia, U.S., France, Germany, probably England, Russia, U.S. It was a P5+1, whatever it was. And, so they make this deal. And the U.S. wakes up one day under Trump and says, it's a bad deal. I don't like it. I want a different deal. We're out. But we expect you, Iran, to still adhere to the deal that we've gotten out of. And Iran says, yeah, I'll do it for a little while, for about a year. And then they just walked away, said, if you're out, we're out. Okay, so now Trump comes back and says, I want a better deal. What he means is a deal that's more restrictive to Iran. And what Iran is saying is, number one, you gave us the Minsk Accords plan. Number two, if you think we're going to disarm, you're out of your mind. We saw what you did with Libya. You said disarm, drop your guns. When Libya dropped your guns, you said, okay, great. Now you're unarmed, we'll kill you. And last but not least, and most importantly, you understand that we got a lot of horsepower. You understand we got missiles and we can hurt you bad. In the same way that the DPRK said, if you launch a decapitating nuclear strike against us, then we'll throw every missile we have. You will pay a price that you do not want to pay. What the hell good is that going to do you when LA and Seattle and Denver and all these other cities on the East Coast and near, in the Rockies and whatever, what good is it going to do you when they all start going up in flames? So it's up to you. You can do what you want to do, but the price, it's going to be costly. Are you ready to deal with that? We don't believe you are. In fact, we know you're not. Interesting thing about Iran is this, and that is, here's the real interesting thing about Iran, and that is that the U.S. intelligence agencies have come together and said, we don't believe that Iran is trying to weaponize its military, its nuclear, game, its nuclear program. And Iran has said, we don't want nukes. So to stop Iran from getting nukes is easy. They said we don't want it. Okay, all you have to do now is just verify that. And Iran says we're fine with it. We don't want them, and we're fine with verifying it. But under international law, we can have other, we can have a nuclear um, uh, uh, um, electric plants, and we can have nuclear stuff for medical and other kinds of technologies. So we will abide by international law, no problem with that. But we ain't abiding by U.S. law, no. By U.S. made rules-based international order law, no. We'll go by international law. Now, if you want some other deal, we'll tell you what we will and won't do. And Iran said, we will not give up our program. We will not give up our missiles. We will not stop working with our allies. No, no, no. You do not have a right to tell us that. In fact, recently, the supreme leader in Iran said to the U.S., who are you? And this is a good question. Who are you to tell us that we can't have a peaceful nuclear program? Who are you to do that? What did he say? What he's saying is, I reject the premise that you have the authority. Not just that you have the authority anymore that's in my mind or in my brain. That's where your authority would rest. I reject the premise that you have the authority anywhere on this planet, that you have any right to issue any orders to me. I will make a deal if it benefits me. You're going to have to drop all of the sanctions. That's what you're going to have to do. And we both know you ain't going to do that. But they're not saying that. I am. But what they're saying is, look, if you attack us, it's going to be damn costly. So you can attack us, but you struggle with the Houthis. Again, I said, I don't think they're going to attack Iran. I don't believe it because of the lesson they learned with Yemen. I believe that by the time the Trump people got out, that what had happened was, it appears to me that Iran, most likely, had given Yemen some additional air defense systems because it started getting into trouble. There were reports that F-35s were painted with radar, that they barely, a couple of those almost got shot down, that the U.S. couldn't fly anymore. The F-18s, F-15s, they were running from missiles. There was air defense systems there, and the Houthis had improved their air defense, and they got run out. So everybody knows the Houthis do not have 1% of the military power that Iran has, not even 1%. So for the U.S. to say the Houthis ran us out of the Red Sea, but we're going to go against Iran is not a rational thing to believe. And I think Iran keeps saying, we don't think America, they may, but we don't think they're going to attack us. Why? Because they're looking at what happened. Any rational person will look at what happened. What's going on here, though, what's interesting is, as the empire kind of waned, shall we say, the issue is not, the issue of who the U.S. attack and who they won't, and what decisions are made to go after other countries or to take kinetic action, military action or economic action, is no longer about just the U.S. empire. The world recognizes that there's a fight inside the U.S. empire. And some of that fight is between people who are still living in a world where the U.S. can do whatever they want. They're saying, attack Iran, attack this person, attack that person. That let's just have a reckless disregard for the outcome, and let's just assume that we'll win everything. And there are some more rational people saying, yes, we want to rule the world, but we're going to have to be a little smarter about how we go about it, because we can't just beat up on people anymore, because, boy, that could go bad. See, understanding something, particularly about attacking Iran. You can't beat the Houthis. Iran you probably don't have a great shot about beating Iran. Number two, and that is that if you attack Iran, the economic results, and therefore, consequentially, the political results are going to be, dare I say, unbearable for whoever's in power. My understanding is Tucker Carlson went to Trump and said that Mark Levine went to Trump, you got to attack Iran, you got to attack Iran. My understanding is that Tucker Carlson went in behind him and said, dude, if you do it, you end your presidency. It's over for you. If you attack Iran, you will end your presidency. And I agree. And that's another dynamic, because of the internal fight in the U.S. empire, right? Because the internal the political instability, the factional and ideological instability of this crumbling empire, to take an action that creates significant amount of economic pain will be to end the political career of any politician, starting by Donald Trump. Now, of course, the people who really want to attack Iran, mostly the neocons, hate Trump, and there's nothing they'd like better. Let's face it, they get two tastes in one, right? They would get their attack on Iran and the war with Iran, which they certainly want. But secondly, what they would get is to obliterate the MAGA coalition, which they certainly want. The MAGA coalition is a powerful, I may have my disagreements with it, you may, or you may not. But it is probably the only coherent political movement in the United States right now. You know what it is, you know kind of what they want, things of that nature, and they have some momentum. They've had some victories. So right now it's the strongest. I might not say, let's at least go with the strongest coherent political movement in the United States right now. And they don't want Trump to attack anybody. They don't want a big war at all. They can live with small ones. They're not happy about them, but they don't want a big war. And if Trump, see, two things happen. They're like America First kind of people, which you could be in favor of, and you could say there's some issues with their version of it. But here's my point. They don't want the president to go out, the government to do things around the world that's going to hurt the people here. They're concerned with rebuilding, fixing the American economy. Some ways they believe I certainly don't agree with, but it doesn't matter. This is what this movement wants. And they're behind Trump. This is Trump. This is Trump's real political strength, is that he has a grassroots movement that supports him. And Tucker Carlson has already said, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said, these are people who have said, dude, you attack Iran, you're done. Why is he done? It ends your presidency. Why is it end his presidency? Because he will be politically naked, because MAGA will go friggin' ballistic. Because you know good and well, he attacks Iran. Iran closes down the Straits of Hormuz. I don't have to go through all of that. You know what happens. Gas goes through the roof. Our economy collapses. What happens if it keeps going? Iran gets hit by a nuclear missile or gets damaged or something like that. And guess what? Okay, well, fair enough then. That's it. So much for Saudi, UAE, all of that crap. We're blowing all their infrastructure. You hit them, you too hard, and they're going to take an action that's going to devastate. They've said we will collapse the Western economy, and they have the authority to do it. And let's not forget, if they close the Straits of Hormuz, you can damn sure believe that the Houthis are going to close the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. And then what? Then what? Then what does the U.S. economy go into? And the Western economy and the European economy. I'll tell you what it goes in: the toilet. The toilet. So Iran is testing the limits of Western power. And what they're saying is this: we're not going to do what you want, and you got to make a decision. Do you believe that you have the military power and that you can take a punch? Because I always talk about, get in a fight, you got to be able to take a punch. What do you do if you get in a fight and somebody breaks your wrist, somebody hurts you, you get cut, you get a broken bone, pain? Do you keep fighting, or do you go into shock? A lot of people. So I say a very effective thing is to get a finger. Start twisting. But rather than some people, if you get a finger, bam, you snap it. If somebody attacks you and you're in a fight and you can get a finger, any finger, you twist that finger in a direction it ain't supposed to go as hard as you can, because the idea is to get out of there, right? The idea is to get away, is to flee, not to stand there and fight. So if you can get that finger and you can, or eye or something, or a groin, punch, grab, anything you can, if you can find a weak spot and hit that weak spot hard enough, the other person ain't going to want to fight no more. Now, if they're trained and you attack them and you break something or hurt something, rather than go into a shock, they're going to keep fighting because they're trained. My life is at stake and I got to keep fighting no matter what. Their brain is already trained. If I go down, I'm going out like a soldier. I'm fighting to the end. So when they get an injury, they expect an injury. It's a fight. They expect pain. It's a fight. They expect a broken bone or whatever. It's a fight, but they're going to keep scrapping. They're going to bite you. They're going to scratch you. They're going to pick up anything they can and hit you with, because it's a fight, and they're ready to take some pain, and they're ready to dish it any way they can, right? So my point is, the Iranians are like this. We know if we get in a fight, we got to take pain. We don't want to take pain, but we're ready to take it. Are you? Are you ready to take the kind of pain we're ready to take? Are you ready to take the economic pain? And the answer, of course, is no. And Trump knows it. And Tucker Carlson told Trump. And Trump's decisions are: do you end your presidency effectively and end all support you have? So now what do you have? You have an electorate that's turned against you. You have a bunch of neocons that want to destroy you. You got nothing. And once that electorate abandons you, those neocons are going to tear you to pieces. They're going to have you up on trial, hanged, anything they can, and there'll be nobody to fight. And what do you think the Republican Party and the Senate is? Those Republicans, once you get weak, they're going to cut you down, buddy, and finish you off. So basically what Iran is saying is, Donald Trump, do you want to commit political suicide? Do you want to commit economic suicide for your country? How far are you willing to go? How much pain are you willing to take? Because it's no longer, we're going to attack Iraq and we're going to blow them up, or Libya, and the people at home ain't going to feel nothing. Those days are gone. It's now, if you want to attack Iran, let's do it. And you know you're already poor and broke, and you're already, we've been credit downgraded. So what's going to happen if we get in a war with Iran and things start going bad? How do you think things are going to do in the bond market? How do you think things are going to do in the stock market? How do you think our credit rating is going to do? It will exacerbate everything. So now we're in a war with Iran. Politically, the people have gone ape shit, and they're pushing back against Trump's own people have just like gone berserk, and they hate him. The MAGA people are furious. And our economy's gone to hell. So it becomes, are you willing to take the pain? Are you willing to go into this fight? I don't believe that Trump's going to give the order, maybe I'm wrong, to attack Iran, because he might as well give the order to drop a bomb on Mar-a-Lago with him sitting in it. He might as well say, drop a nuke on Mar-a-Lago, buddy, because that's it for his career. That's it for everything for him. That's the reality. Will they do it? I can't say anything for sure. But I would be surprised if Donald Trump, politicians are very, narcissistic, and Donald Trump is no exception by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think Donald Trump's going to commit political suicide. But my point being, they pushed Iran. Iran didn't want to get to this point. Then the U.S. empire pushed Russia. The U.S. empire said, we're going to surround you with bases. We're going to turn Ukraine into a weapon to take you out. When Russia said that, you mess with Ukraine, we got to fight. The U.S. said, oh, I don't think you can do anything. We're going into Ukraine, and we're going to use that to take you out. And Russia said, you left us with no choice. The Iranians, you better do all the things that we said. And the Iranians are basically saying, if we do everything you tell us, we're not a country anymore. We're not a independent and sovereign nation anymore. So the answer is no. We'll fight you however we need to fight you. Well, you're already busy over there fighting Russia. You want to get in this war? How much? How many anti-aircraft missiles you got left after you've used them all up in Ukraine and in Israel? How do you think that's going to work out for you? We know you don't have many, and guess what? We got more missiles than you got. We got more offensive missiles than you have anti-aircraft missiles. So after about the second day, we're going to still have missiles to fire, and you ain't going to have nothing to stop us. And you know it. Oh, by the way, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, probably, I would say this. And most likely Iran has literally millions of drones and hundreds of thousands of missiles. Millions of drones, hundreds of thousands of missiles. So within days, all of the U.S. assets in the region will be naked with nothing to protect them. Zero, which means they'll all be turned to rubble. Could we fight Iran for longer than a couple days? If you're going to fight, people are like, well, we could hit Iran hard. But if you're going to fight, here's the question. If you're going to fight, can you take your enemy out really, really quick? Or can your enemy use his ability to outlast you? Can he run around you? Can he rope a dope you? Can he keep you moving until you run out of energy and then take you out? There are a lot of animals that's what they do. They just wear you down. They go after their prey, and they continue to go after their prey and hunt it and hunt it and hunt it until their prey can't stand it anymore, and their prey falls and they eat it. They outlast their prey. You know what Komodo dragons do? They bite you. One bite, a nice good bite, and you get away, right? But here's the problem. The saliva of the Komodo dragon, people say it's poisonous. Well, in a way, what it does is it stops your blood from clotting, so you don't get a scab. So the Komodo dragon bites you, boink, boy, that really smarted, and off you go running bleeding. but you're going to keep bleeding. You're going to keep bleeding because your blood ain't going to coagulate because of his saliva. And you're going to keep bleeding, and he's going to keep going after you. And you're going to run, which makes you bleed faster. And he's going to keep following you and following you. If he gets closer, he'll get another bite. He wears you down. Eventually, you get eaten, right? So my point being this, the U.S. is in a position where they have to, somebody says Komodo has poison bites. In fact, there's a number of animals that's the way if you want to call it poison, works. It does things like stops your blood from coagulating. And then, of course, there are animals that bite that have all kind of terrible bacteria. You get infected, all kind of terrible things. So there's various ways that animals can bite you and cause you problems other than just bite something off and kill you instantly, right? They continue to track you and they win over the long run. And right now, the U.S. can't fight well, here's what we know. The U.S. can't fight a long war with anyone. We do not have the industrial capacity and we do not have the weapon storage. Our stuff is all out. I think the U.S. is bluffing right now, Iran, because the U.S., when they're looking in their cupboards are bare. And they don't have the bombs. And we don't even have the time because we don't have the industrial capacity to make this stuff fast enough. I've heard what, 600 Patriot missiles a year. If we're making 600 Patriot missiles a year and Iran can fire 60,000, that means how many years does it take us? You know what I mean? 60 years, well, 600 a year. Think about that. 600 a year, 10 years only gives us 6,000. Iran probably has 600,000 missiles. So the bottom line is that the first day they can burn up 100 years of our Patriot worth of Patriot missiles, and we don't have that. Why? Because we've been giving them all to the Iranians and the Israelis. We're in a lot of hurt. So now we're still making the same demands. Iran, you got to do this, and Iran has finally said, you know what? We're looking at Russia, and we see that you're kind of tied up over there, that you're losing. You know what? We're going to figure this out. Are you willing to? And you can't get out of the Ukrainian conflict. Good luck with that. You can't get out politically because of the pressure at home. So let's see what you're ready to do. They've challenged us kinetically. At some point, if you're going to be the big guy, you're going to be the tough guy on the yard. You can bully people around, but sooner or later, somebody is going to call you out. That's what's happening. And what about China economically? The U.S. is saying to China, we want to go to war with you. Could be imminent war with China. China's like, yeah, it could be. We're ready for that. China said we're ready for whatever it needs to be. But what China's saying now is, you know what? We're going to try you out economically. And we do have some hands to play. One of the things that China's doing is saying we're not going to sell you the rare earth metals and the rare earth magnets that you need. Not for sale. Sorry, you're out of luck. You got to have these things to build cars, to do all kinds of things, and particularly to build weapons. And those weapons would be used against us. We ain't sell them to you. So now the U.S. is trying to make deals with China. But here's the thing about it. This is how screwed up the U.S. is. The U.S. is saying to China, we need a deal so we can get these rare earth magnets and we can get back on track. At the same time, the U.S. is doing things that are detrimental to China. They're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I want you to go. Trump's like this. Yes, we need a deal so we can get our rare earth magnets so we can build all kind of missiles to attack you with. But 1 second. Here's what I want you to do. Throw all the Chinese students out of the U.S., number one. I want you to go around the world and tell everybody that they can't sell chips to China and they can't sell this and that to China. Do everything you can to screw China. Okay, great. Keep that up. Thanks. Good work. All right, China. Now back to what we were saying. How can we get this deal so we can get rare earth minerals? Because how are we ever going to attack you and try to kill you if we don't have the rare earth minerals? And China's basically like, yeah, we'll make deals with you, but you ain't getting the rare earth minerals back. Not happening. Not going to do that. And so the U.S. is in a bind because to some extent, if the U.S., I believe, let me just look and see. I'm going to do a quick search and see if I see anything different. China rare earth export ban. Let me look in the news. Let me look in the past week. There we go. China's rare earth export ban exposes global industry's dangerous dependence. Will your next car or EV get delayed? China's rare earth curves trigger auto supply crunch. This is Fortune 2 hours ago. U.S. seeks deal in London on China rare earth flows. Hassel says. Rare earth elements crisis explained. China's curves threatens India's auto sector. So here's the bottom line. The U.S. the China is saying they're flexing their muscle. You know what I mean? The U.S. is saying, China, you got to do this, you got to do that. Meanwhile, they're still doing all of this stuff maliciously against China. And China is saying, well, we've got a strong hand to play. So here's what we'll do. We'll keep doing business with you, but we ain't selling you the rare earth stuff. And we're not even going to sell it elsewhere so that you could get your hands on it. We got this big thing. We can strangle you. You ain't going to be, oh, you want rare earth minerals and you're going to build your own ability. It'll take you 10 years. It'll take you a decade. So good luck with that. I mean, you can do it, but within a decade, you'll have to wait a decade. And if I was China, I would say, if you wanted to, apparently the U.S. is meeting in London with China to talk about that. If I was China, I would say you really need these rare earths and you can't go without them. But we just heard this speech from Pete Hegseth about imminent war with China. We got to have a talk. You want rare earths? We want you out of Taiwan. I give them what I would do if I'm China. I would give the U.S. I would say this. I'm concerned. I don't want a war with you, but you seem to be setting up for a war with me. I can't sell you rare earth minerals. Come on. We're all adults here. If you're going to use them to build missiles to fight me with, I know that's what you're doing. You know that's what you're doing. We all know that's what you're doing. So if you want me to sell you these rare earth minerals, then I got to have some guarantees that you ain't setting them up to go to war with me. Get the hell out of Taiwan. Get your troops out of Taiwan. Stop selling your weapons to Taiwan. That's what you need to do. If you don't do that, the answer is no. And by the way, all these missiles you're putting around the first and second island chain, and we're going to put these missiles in Philippines. All of the preparation that you're making for war with me has to stop. If you don't stop making preparations for war with me, I'm damn sure not going to sell you the things that you have to go to war with me. What kind of an idiot do you think I am? If I'm China, that's what I got to say. I got to say, not only am I pushing the limits of U.S. power, I have the mechanism to inhibit. I have the mechanism to influence the limits of U.S. imperial power, and I'm going to use those mechanisms. Come on. If you're like, what are you going to do, Garland? I'm going to make this knife really sharp, and then I'm going to stab it right in your friggin' thorax. If people have thoraxes, but you get my point. And if there's only one thing I need, Garland, I'm like, holy crap, Sammy, that's going to hurt. That's going to leave a mark. I don't want to get stabbed. And what are you going to say? I only need one thing to do before I sharpen this knife up and stab you. And I'm like, what's that? A sharpening stone. And where are you going to get that? Hey, Garland, can you sell me a sharpening stone? No! What are you going to use it for? Oh, that's easy. I'm going to sharpen this knife off and I'm going to kill you with this knife. So if I can get this straight, I'm the only person on this block who sells sharpening stones. You have nowhere else to buy them. Correct. And if I don't sell you the sharpening stone, you can't sharpen the knife. Correct. And the plan is to sharpen the knife so you can shove it in my thorax and cut my filthy throat and then chop me up into a dozen pieces. Precisely, Garland. How about that? I'll give you $50. Can you give me a good deal on that sharpening stone? No! You ain't getting a sharpening stone. Sorry, you're going to have to attack me with a dull butter knife, and I think I got a chance. But if you sharpen that thing up like a razor blade, I'm done. I'm not selling you the mechanisms to kill me. I might as well kill myself. I think China has come to that conclusion. And what they're saying to the U.S. is, and there's nothing you can do about it. What are you going to do? Let's see. You're going to attack us? Oh, no, wait a minute. You can't attack us because you don't have the bare magnet minimum. Right. You're not going to attack us. Oh, I know. You'll put a tariff on us. Oh, wait, you tried that. And that's why you're back begging at our feet now, because the tariff was going to crush you and you knew it. Your power is limited. And where your power is limited is in my mind, because I no longer believe that you have the authority and the ability to coerce me to do anything. So China's answer is 9. Yet. Thumbs down. That's China's answer. And I don't blame them. It would be illogical for them to do anything else. But the ruthlessness of the United States to say, yeah, you know what? We're going to, we're imminent war with China. We might have to, it'll be terrible if we go to war with China, but we might have to go to war with China. And meanwhile, we're just going to circle them with missiles and bases and all kinds of terrible things. Well, that's pretty ruthless for people that say that, well, can't we talk this out? No, they're watching you saying, oh, yes, we're the Russians are terrible and Russia needs to be destroyed and we need to take Russia out. Meanwhile, you break every deal, the Minsk Accord, and need I bring up Gaza? Need I bring that up? That they're looking at you and they're saying, my God, I can't believe my eyes. The United States empire and its proxy Israel have taken a bunch of men, women, and children in a ghetto. They've surrounded them and they've cut off all of the exits and said, none of you can leave. And then they said, oh, no food and water can come in. So you're going to die of starvation and you're going to die of thirst. They've led a medieval siege against this people. And if that isn't bad enough, they dropped 3 times more bombs on them than was dropped on Hiroshima. And the world's looking at that saying, man, you guys are some ruthless sons of bitches. My God. So let me ask you this. You're on the outside. And you're looking at the U.S. surround a bunch of men, women, and children and bomb them mercilessly and starve them and force them to die of thirst. Do you really feel like that's somebody that you can make a deal with? You watch these people break every deal and laugh about it. You watch them attack countries left and right, slaughter civilians, do the most evil deeds on earth. And then they try to force you into deals with them that you know that they will never keep up their end of the deal. Then they tell you, we want you to sell us the means that we need to kill you with. And you think you're going to get a deal with any of those countries? No, they're going to challenge your limits at this point because you put them in that position. If I say I'm going to kill you anyway, then you're going to say, well, then I'm going to go down fighting and at least see maybe I can do something to protect myself. Hopefully, I'll cross my fingers. And that's all they're doing. And they have every reason to believe that they can protect themselves. So now Iran's saying, if you want this nasty hurting I'm going to put on you, you can come get it. China is now saying, not only do I not accept that you have the authority to tell me what to do? Tell you, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to yank your chain a little bit, brother. I'm going to yank on your chain. How you like me now? You want some, oh, you want these? What's in that? What's in that, Garland? These are rare earth metals in this little box. Okay, can I have some? Yeah, you want some? Yeah, you can have, no, sorry about that. No rare earth metals for you, buddy. They're just holding it right in front of our little faces. Wouldn't you like some rare earth? Please, can I? Yep. You're not getting those. That's what China's doing now. Not only do we not accept that you have the power, we're going to demonstrate to you who really has the damn power. We ain't going to tell you we got the power. We're not going to brag about it. We're just going to say, you can't get what we got. Can't have it. If you want to talk to us, come on. But you're going to have to make some concessions. And the U.S. empire is going down. Is it because empires can't make concessions? Because if you make concessions, what's the old saying about a conversation? If you're explaining, you're losing. If you're answering questions, you're losing. And if China's telling you what they want and you give them anything, then you're no longer the empire, are you? If Russia says this is what I want and you give them anything, you're no longer the hegemon. If you tell Iran you have to do this and Iran says no, you're no longer the hegemon unless now you got to prove it by going and effectively you must coerce them. You must now demonstrate to everybody you still have the power to do it. But therein lies the big risk. I'll finish this up. Therein lies the risk that's been around for thousands of years. This is what happened in St. Petersburg. It's happened with, over and over and over. I think it happened with Ceausescu. I'm not sure. But here's what happens. And governments know this. I'm a government. I'm in the government building, and the people are on the street saying, we want bread. We're hungry. We don't have anything. And I have my army there, right? And the people are like, no, we won't leave. We're starving. We're hungry. We have nothing. And I'm the government. And the day I say to the army, I say to the people, you must all go back home, or I'll have my troops shoot you. And the people say, but we're hungry. We can't go home. We need you to do something now. And the government says to the troops, open fire. That is where the rubber meets the road. Because historically, one of the things that sometimes happened is they say to the troops, fire! And the troops go like this. And they say, wait a minute, that's my aunt. That's my aunt right there. She used to hold me when I was this high. And they look around and they're like, wait a minute, these are our wives, our sisters, our brothers, our friends and families. You're asking us to machine gun them. They throw the guns down and they say, I'm with him. Or they take the gun and they turn around to the president. You know what? You're under arrest. You're out. When the government gives the order to shoot, that's the ultimate roll of the dice. Because if the police say we will not shoot the protesters, the government is no longer in power. They're playing it all, right? Okay. That's where the empire is now. Because once somebody calls your bluff, it's one way or the other. So if the U.S. says, well, China, not maybe a good idea to attack them. Russia, we'll be nuked in 5 minutes. And besides, we can't win that war. We can't beat the Houthis. So China and Russia are not an option. But if the U.S. says, well, of them, the least of the three is Iran. Well, you're right on a grand scale. You're right. But the problem is this. The least of the three will still put a foot in your ass. The least of the three, how about this? The least of the four was the Houthis, and you lost to them. When you lose to the Houthis, don't fight anybody after that. You're out of the fight, right? So now the U.S. is at that moment where the president says to the troops, fire on the protesters. If the president fires on the protesters, he's still in power. I mean, the troops. If the troops fire, but if the troops say no, we won't, then that government is out of power. Here's my point. If the U.S. empire says we're going to attack Iran, one of two things are going to happen. They're going to have success some kind of way, and then Iran's going to say, we give, uncle, we're not going to close the Straits of Hormuz. What is it that you want? That's one possibility, albeit a very, very remote one. Here's the other possibility that I suspect is probably a much more likely scenario. Some manner of this happening. The U.S. says, go ahead, attack. Iran has very, very significant now. Their air defense and electronic warfare is solid. And it was already good. And apparently the Russians have been there really helping to fortify their air defense, their defensive capabilities, air defense and electronic warfare. And you can stop a lot of missiles. The U.S. right now and Israel damn sure better not go flying a bunch of planes in, because if they do, they're going to have a problem. They can fire missiles. What happens if the U.S. says, okay, that's it, you're going to get it, Iran, and they fire a bunch of missiles in and most of them get shot down? And they attack Iran. Number one, option one, they attack Iran and the attack is ineffective. That they say, that's it, you're going to get it, Iran, and their attack is ineffective, which I think is a quite real possibility. Their attack is ineffective. They attack Iran and it don't work. Now what? Now you've been revealed that you still can fight. You can still attack, but if you can't launch an effective attack against Iran, you ain't going to launch an effective attack against Russia or China. So you're out of the fight at that point. Nobody respects you. All of your coercive powers are gone. But possibility A, possibility B is there is some effectiveness to your attack, and Iran responds, and they knock the hell out of you. They knock the hell out of you. They hit your bases. They hit things in Israel. They really knock the hell out of you. At that point, they close the Straits of Hormuz, and now, man, your economy's going fast. Everything's going down, and everybody says, what's going on? Why are we paying $20 a gallon for gas and our economy's collapsing and everything's bad? And let's say it continues to escalate and you throw a nuke at Iran. Oh, that's okay. We'll use nukes. And Iran says, if you do, I'm wiping out all of the oil infrastructure in the region. And you do that, and they wipe out all of the oil infrastructure in the region, and it'll take a decade to build it back. But first, you got to get that war stopped, and ask Iran not to take it out, because they're going to keep taking stuff out. If you've used a nuke against them, you've ended this thing. You're going to pay dearly for that. There ain't going to be no stopping at that point, no calling it off. You've opened a door that you cannot shut. So then what? And what was your plan? Because they wouldn't say we're not going to get a nuke. Think about this. We had to use a nuclear weapon against them. Why? To stop them from getting a nuclear weapon, because God knows we'd have a nuclear war if that happened. So what'd you do? We started a nuclear war. You look absurd. And the world looks at you and, what do you think's going to happen to the markets, the stock market, the bond market, the every market? Woo! Americans are going to say, oh my God, you just collapsed our economy. We've got hyperinflation. And what was that all about again? Iran. Disaster of all disasters. And basically at that point, you end the U.S. empire. If you attack Iran, no matter how much success you have, I think an attack on Iran is the end of the U.S. empire. It's the end of it. It's over for it. Internally, God only knows what will happen. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. All 962 people watching. All 962. Thank you very much. A couple of things. Number one, and that is you can see if you can, whether it's PayPal or buy me a coffee is always good. That's a good one. Buy Garland a coffee. How much? $5. How many? 1, 3, 5, 10, 100, whatever you want, right? Whatever you can do is appreciated. Secondly, you've got Patreon. You can become a Patreon member, but also buy me a coffee where it says $5 or however many. How often do you want this to happen? Once or monthly? So you can do the Patreon thing on Buy Me a Coffee too. So that's always good. Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, whatever the case may be. You can Substack, PayPal, all that crap. You can follow me there. And of course, last but not least, guess what? There's my mail. Look, I got a P.O. box number. So if you want to send a letter, some guy just sent me some religious letter about whatever, Christianity or something. You know what? That may not be my thing, but thanks a lot. I appreciate the mail. I'll send them back a hello. So you can send me an email if you want to do a contribution, you want to do a book or a magazine, or just something that you wrote that you were thinking that you want to send me a snail mail at my P.O. box. Feel free to do it. Most importantly, share this on all your social media platforms. Somebody says, I have mosquitoes in my room. This is going to be a bad night. Oh God, I hate that. Oh, there's nothing worse than mosquitoes in your room. There is this thing that I got actually off of Amazon that's really, really good. Mosquitoes, it takes them right out. It's like a little square thing, and it has these blue lights in it, and you just turn it on, and the mosquitoes go in there, and it goes pop. You can hear them when they hit in there. So that's real good. You try that. That will change your life. God knows you don't want mosquitoes. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I think I got a little off. Got a little bit off, but that doggone mosquito zapper kind of thing indoor is really worth. It's about $30, $40, whatever the case. Thanks a lot, everybody. Stand up against genocide. Stand up against the empire. Stand up for justice. Share this on all your social media platforms. Oh, wait a minute. I got to look and see something. You know what? I've got to do my peeps right here. What I didn't do and what I need to do, especially it's a Sunday. Let me go through and see, do we have any? I got to go through and see if we got any super chats and things like that. There we've got Larissa. Thank you for everyone. Larissa has become a member. I appreciate people becoming members. How about we go with Julia, Yura, Maladits, super sticker. Thank you, Yura. Certainly appreciate that. We got to go through our super chats and super stickers. Here's one. Jam says, your thoughts on the Madeleine aid boat to Gaza? I think it's great. I think it's interesting. I think, isn't that interesting? Greta Thunberg, they loved her. She was wonderful. And now that she's not in favor of the Gaza stuff, not so much anymore. I think these things are good. It's very dangerous. I have a lot of admiration for the people who put their lives, they put their lives in on the line for justice like this. So, much love out to the people on the boat, and let's hope the best. They're dealing with ruthless monsters. So let's hope that things work out well for them. We should all support them in any way we can. Let's see. How about next we go to Sean says, thanks for your analysis. Thank you. I'm just doing the best I can, Sean. I really appreciate it. I'm saying what I can say. How about we go next to a super sticker from Ivan B. Oh, I haven't seen Ivan B around in a long. Thanks a lot, Ivan B. Great to hear from you again. How about we go to Red Chili Pepper, super sticker. Okay, we go to Larissa again, the supers. Thank you very much, Larissa. And thanks everybody who's become members. It's pretty cheap to become a member of this channel. So I appreciate everybody that does it. It's a big help. Do you think they went to talk to Putin and told him, you fight back or we remove you? No, I don't think so. I don't think there's anything going on like that. I just think that the nature of the Russians is that they are very conservative. They're very slow to move, that they won't be provoked, that they understand that these provocations are because they are winning, and that people who are provoking them want them to do something stupid and crazy, and they're not going to do something stupid and crazy. I think that's the way I feel. Hey, there's Myra. Hey, Myra. Always great to see Myra is always there. What if we look for the way I feel? Hey, okay, we got some. Okay, let's go over to Rumble. And we've got Dobther on Rumble says, are they capable to reindustrializing like they did for World War II? Not like the USA was in prime condition before that conflict was it? No. Neoliberalism has just so stripped the US and Europe. And keep in mind something, it's not just that they've been stripped, it's that neoliberalism, the world has changed, the supply chain has changed, and that China dominates the supply chain. Look, if the US is planning for war with China, all China has to do is say, we're going to stop giving you the stuff you need to get ready for war, which is what China's doing. So the US doesn't have the industrial capacity. The US doesn't have an industrial industry. Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, they have industrial economies. I'm saying not industrial industry, industrial economies. They have the capability to maintain a significant industrial output. They have the natural resources or access to the natural resources they need to maintain and sustain industrial output. The U.S. not only it doesn't have that, we have a system that is now based on making money through financial wizardry on Wall Street, not through industry. So we don't even have a way to go back to industry. And if we tried to go back, we need to buy everything we need. We need to buy the machines from China to build the industry, the robots from China, the rare earth minerals from China. The U.S. couldn't do it. Right now, you know what it costs? 5 times more for labor, in factory labor in the U.S. than it does for China, 1/5. And by the way, 33 times more for industrial labor in the United States than in India. So let me ask you this. Why the hell would anybody build anything other than in India or China? Why would they come to the US and build it 5 times more? And anything we build or make here is going to automatically, you got to add 5 times the labor costs. So no, the US does not have the industrial capacity, nor does Europe. Oh, by the way, Europe would need Russia's cheap energy in order to industrialize enough to fight Russia. And Russia ain't going to let that happen, are they? How about we go with Albu Kid, who says, Iran said on press TV and told the AP that they have seized huge troves of Israel nuclear files. This changes everything, especially since they have hypersonic ballistic missiles. Yes. Yes, that's all over the place. If you look it up, look at El Mayadeen, look all over the place. Anybody can search that. Apparently, whether it's true or not, the Iranians are claiming that they have a huge trove, that they have had an intelligence operation that's been very successful, and they've stolen a gigantic amount of secrets from Israel. Now, is it true? Is it propaganda? Is it Memorex? We don't know, but we do know that the Iranians are saying that it's true. So it's possible that it's true. Anything else over here? No, I think that's it. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I think that is it. You all have a wonderful day and share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.